Hey class, I just want to talk to you about chapter 2 from They Say, I Say, because I think there's some information here that could easily be misconstrued or misunderstood, and I don't want it to cause problems with you. So in chapter 2, it's called Her Point Is the Art of Summarizing. Graf and Birkenstein gave you a background on how to summarize and why you need a summary, and they start off with telling you that a good summary requires balancing what the original author says, but also being true to what you need, what interests you, the writer. And you have to be respectful of the original content they make sure to add as well. So what that means is when you're summarizing, be respectful. Even if it's from someone you don't agree with, a different viewpoint that you're using for your counter arguments, like you still have to treat it respectfully, or else there goes all of your credibility as a writer. But it doesn't mean that you can change the content or the context of the writing. So when you're providing a summary, like, you have to provide the big ideas, but say in those big ideas it also gives a lot of details on something you're not writing about, then you may skip that part. So if I'm writing an essay on the importance of recycling oyster shells in the Atlantic Ocean, and I'm summarizing a big scientific essay about oyster shells, coral reefs, and all that information, I might mention that coral reefs and other things are in there, but I'm not going to go into detail on that because I'm writing about oyster beds, and coral reefs are not the same thing. So I'm not changing the essay or the source, I'm not changing the context, I'm acknowledging that it's there, but it's not my focus. And so that's what they're going to that's kind of what they're pointing at. They do tell you that you have to play something called the believing game. So that's, again, where you can step out of your argument and present this summary. And when you summarize, no one should be able to tell whether or not you agree or disagree with that person. A summary should be free of bias, and then you can go into saying, like, their assumptions are wrong, their claims are wrong because of XYZ, but the summary itself should be unbiased, not distorted. All right. They also noted on my page 35, you're reading it digitally, so I don't know if it would have shown you the page number, but it says that if your assignments respond to a single author, you need to tell your readers enough about the argument so they can assess the merits on its own independent view, and that ties into the idea before that, like, if it's a single short response, then maybe like 1 or 2 sentences enough. That's not the case in this class. Most of the work you're doing, you're going to need a longer summary, just because we're writing more intense things, and also you're reading longer things. So you're getting ready to summarize for the Obama textual analysis. That's like, what, a 7-page speech? Your summary should not be 2 sentences. It should easily be a chunk of a paragraph, if not a couple of paragraphs. So it needs to be proportional to what you're writing and what you're reading, the length of your summary. Then they also just focus on the fact that you don't want to make a list summary, which is kind of what I'm doing, so I know it's a bad example, but right now I'm trying to run you through the chapter. So a list summary works, but typically you want to avoid it because we're not focusing around a central claim when we use our list summaries. We're just like boom, 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 boom. What I want you to understand is that a good summary is unbiased. It gives us the details without overwhelming us with information that doesn't really matter to your argument. And it is active. So they provide some really great verbs that you can use in summaries or quotations. So stop saying the author said. They argued, they claimed, they extolled, they supported, they questioned, they deny, they encouraged, they recommend, they plead. Oh, plead, that's a really strong word, isn't it? So use those verbs when you're introducing a summary or introducing other quotes to really hook your people in, because you want them to understand why you're doing what you're doing, but also kind of agree with you from what the evidence you show. There is a small section in here about how to summarize satirically. We're not really doing that in English 111, so please don't attempt that. It is a very advanced move, and it doesn't really fit what we're doing. So I don't want you to attempt that and it not go well because it doesn't line up with what I'm teaching and how we're moving through the class. But that is information you can use in the future as you're going. So just remember that as we make our summaries, that we are unbiased in our summary. We focus on it in a way that allows it to connect to what our purpose for writing is. And you always have a purpose for writing beyond just my teacher told me to do it. In the Obama speech, for example, you're analyzing his rhetoric. So your summary should focus on the main points, but also like look at the language side of it as well. Maybe less about the political impact and more about how was he speaking, why the words he chose, and stuff like that. And then use strong words to indicate how the original author is acting instead of just a really bland said, because anyone can say something, but not everyone is arguing or pleading or encouraging. If you've got questions, let me know, and enjoy the chapter.